The time is 5:30. Good evening, reporting for Morehead State Public Radio. I'm Jared Wesley. So those words, that phrase, were words that I said almost every day for about the last 3.5 to 4 years when I worked at a radio station on campus during my undergrad years at Morehead State University. Um, I worked as a sportscaster, also did some news, and ran the soundboards at Morehead State Public Radio. And I learned a lot of valuable skills, tools that will not only help me if I choose to further my career in that field, but also learn things that will help me in other fields as well. So that's why I'm deciding to talk about this, to train you guys basically what I did as a sportscaster. And the training exercise that I'm going to be talking about is basically just what it takes to compile a sportscast together, and then produce it verbally live on the air yourself individually. And again, I know this doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, but we all can take things away from what I'm about to be kind of describing here, to use into our everyday lives or in the workplace as well. Even if we're not going to be doing radio things, these, and it'll make more sense when I discuss it. But basically, everything I'm going to be training you guys on in the next few minutes, if you don't put it to use in the radio world, you can put it to use somewhere else. So why this is relevant? Why is it relevant to learn how to effectively produce and broadcast something on the radio? Radio stations are incredibly important, even with the I guess kind of shift in how we gather our information now as consumers. It's definitely shifted more to the internet. It's shifted more to television, but the radio is where it all began. Before all of that even happened, if you needed to know something that was going on, whether it be in the sports world or in the news world, you found that through the radio. And I think it's awesome that we still have this retro sort of information um, uh, content provider that we still use today. And I do think that it's very, very relevant, especially going to college in a very small town like Morehead, Kentucky. It's even more important because in a smaller town, there are fewer news outlets to be able to get that news, to get that sporting news, whatever it may be. And so instead of waiting until the next day to read about it in the paper, or even a lot of times in a small town you hear about things from people, in the rumor mill, if you will. But the radio provides a shortcut to that. There's no television stations in Moorhead, so I can guarantee that a lot of the times, unless they're seeing something on the internet, that would be less likely in a smaller town for something local like that to really break out to everybody. The radio station is going to give you something to hold on to be able to say, all right, if I want to know what the news is going to be today, I know that when I'm driving my kids to work, or when I'm driving my kids to work, whenever I'm driving my kids to school, or whenever I'm driving myself to work, I know that I can turn the radio on and hear something that, if I didn't turn it on, I may not hear about what I'm about to for another few hours, or maybe not even until the next day. So the radio world is still strong, especially in the sports industry. Whenever you're doing covering local high schools, local colleges. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that real quick to show you guys the relevance of radio. It's very relevant. But let's get into this training session very quickly. So there's four main components that I would tell you guys that go into producing a very effective sportscast. And I'm going to talk about all of those. The first thing, you need to have accurate and concise writing. Number two, quick and efficient gathering of audio. Number three, organization of stories. And four, confident and clear vocal presentation in a live setting. So again, that first one that I'm going to talk about first, you need to have accurate and concise writing. So a misconception with people that work at radio stations is that you go in, hang out, and then you're on the air for 5 to 7 minutes, and then you get off and go home. So everybody's like, man, that's such an awesome job. Like how lucky are you just to be able to go into work and talk about sports for 5 to 10 minutes and then leave. Well, that's not the case at all. It takes a lot of time and effort putting a five to 7 minute sportscast together, which is what I usually did. It would usually take me about 3 to 4 hours to compile what I was going to do, and that all begins with writing. So you need to once you figure out what the story is. So let's say there's a new high school basketball coach being hired. You need to have a very efficient lead and a very quick second or third sentence, and then get straight into your sound bite, and then close with like a one sentence kind of closer, if you will. And I'm getting into these very quickly because of time constraints. But it's very important to write very quickly, get as little information or get as much information, I'm sorry, as you can into as few words as possible, because you don't want to lose the listener's attention. You don't want to talk for, I don't know, 30 seconds about something small when you could say the same thing in 5 seconds. And also, because you have a lot of stories to get to, you want to do it quickly. So that's number one, very concise and accurate writing. You want to get all the facts straight. You don't want to say anything that's not true, or people will get mad and you lose your credibility forever. Number two, quick and efficient gathering of audio. Again, you've got a lot of stories to put together, so you have to get audio very quickly. What we do is we have certain sound systems where we can use, like Adobe Audition, for example. We use where if you want to get an interview from Peyton Manning, you go to the internet and you play his sound through the computer and save it, and you can edit that. And you usually want to use about a 15 to 20 second sound bite, so that everything, again, is staying really quickly. So you talk for 2 seconds. For example, Peyton Manning signed a new deal with the Denver Broncos. He says that he's very excited. Again, this is an example, but he says that he's very excited about the new deal and thinks that him and his teammates can do big things this year. Bam, you hit play. He talks for about 15 seconds, and then you cut back. The Broncos finished last season at 12-6, whatever, and then you go to the next story. So it needs to be very quick, so you can get to the next story. So accurate, concise writing, quick and efficient gathering of audio. Number three, organization of stories. This part is a little bit more, it's simple, but at the same time you want to get it right. You always group stories based on their relevance to each other. So for example, if you have a couple of college stories and professional stories, always group the college together. Always group the NBA together, so you're not going back and forth from the NBA to college baseball, back to college basketball, back to college baseball. You want to go NBA, college basketball, high school basketball, NFL, college football, high school football. Keep that same line, so the listener is able to understand you more clearly, and they keep their brain in that sport, so it's not going everywhere and you're forgetting what you've heard. So accurate, concise writing, quick and efficient gathering of audio, organization of stories. Now, four, you want to this the most important thing: confident and clear vocal presentation in a live environment. Whenever you're speaking live, it's very nerve-wracking the first few times you do it, but you need to practice it by pre-reading your stories. So get your cast in front of you, get a timer, read that, see how long it takes you, so that way you'll understand whenever you get into the situation to present it live. If you're 30 seconds short, okay, maybe I should go a little bit slower, maybe I should add in another short story. Or if you were going, if you were running the other way, vice versa, you could change it accordingly. But it And personally, I tended to make fewer mistakes when I did it live, based off recording it, because I was thinking about it way too much recording it, because I had to get it perfect. When you're doing it live, just relax, and a lot of the times it'll go way better than you think. So the four components, once again, to wrap things up, of being a successful sportscaster: accurate, concise writing, get to the point. Quick and efficient gathering of audio, keep things moving, and keep that audio short and concise as well. 3, organization of stories. And 4, confident and clear vocal presentation in a live environment. If you can do all of those things, I guarantee you that you can master the art of being a successful sportscaster, or newscaster for that matter. And even if you're not getting into those fields, all of those things put together, it can help you in smaller aspects branching out in whatever your workplace may be. So thank you, and I hope you learned something.